When I purchased every single weekly dividend ETF to track how well they do, I never thought that they would be doing this well. Like, I thought there was a chance, but they have really been paying out some insane dividends, but some more than others. And that's what we need to focus on. Some are doing great, some are only doing meh, or okay, I guess I could say. So I'm going to give a full update in this video. Before we do that, I want you guys to like it and subscribe if you're interested in this content. And if you think the video is well done, blah, 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 all that good stuff. Helps me out, helps the channel out. I really appreciate it. So let's just roll the intro. So we are back in the Moomoo account. Now you can trade all of these weekly dividend ETFs through Moomoo. If you guys, I've heard people say their brokers don't have these. I have, my Fidelity still also has them. I've seen them on there. I think Robinhood does. But if you don't, you want to open a Moomoo account, use my link below. Helps the channel out as well. But they also have some crazy good perks. Now, we are up. You guys can see we are at $862.17. So we're going to do a little bit of math here. I am going to figure out what our percentage return is. This is week 10. So we're going to do 62.17, which is our profit, divided by the 800 initial amount and multiply this by 100 for a percentage of 7.77% in 10 weeks. Now there's roughly 52 weeks in a year. We'll do it the simple way. We're going to divide this by 10 and then multiply that by 52. And so that's going to give us a rough 40.4% return on the account for the year if it averages what it's been making, which is actually crazy. Now, you guys can see also that our total cash is down to only $10.20. For those of you that don't know, DRIP is on for the YieldMax funds, and I want to address something quickly with those. We have gotten 1/5 of YMAG and nearly 1/5 of YMAX 2. YMAX has been paying such insane dividends that we are able to purchase more shares so quickly because DRIP has not been on for these the entire time. I turned it on late in the game. And then I did purchase another share of QDTE, so we are at 3. I talked about that last video, but since then I purchased another share of RDTE because it was percentage-wise one of the lower ones in the account, so I bought another share, and so that's going to have to be reflected in our dividends as well. All that's going to be on our spreadsheet, but I thought that was really, really cool. So we are continuing to make a really solid return on this account, and I am just so pumped. Now we're going to go into all of the details. We're going to check out the 3 different types of funds. We have Defiance, we have YieldMax, and we have RoundHill. So let's go right into that. Starting off with our worst returner so far, at least percentage-wise, we are looking at IWMY, the Defiance ETF. It is down 5.52%, costing me $5.73 on my $100 investment, roughly, which is a huge bummer. This one does pay out really big dividends, so that's why, but the NAV erosion has just been astronomical. We can see our average cost of $34.61 and a current price of $32.70. Looking at the chart, it has made no progression upwards and has continued to trail downward, which is the key factor of NAV erosion. So we can see our purchase initially on October 2nd, and since then, it's just been trailing down. I have not purchased any more of these. I have had accusations of adding more money to the account. I haven't done that either because that would ruin the experiment. And I want this to make money because I own it, of course, but really, it's really interesting what it's doing. So if this continues to trail down, I'm not going to try and add more money to it sneakily. I want it to showcase what the fund is doing. That's the whole point. And so this stuff trailing down, NAV erosion's a bummer. We can see 120 million in AUM, assets under management, and a dividend yield of 105%. Although that has flatlined a little bit, I did like this one paid the dividend and dropped steadily to 32.20. It then rose back up to almost 33 and now has trailed back off to 32. I mean, it was at a low point. It's still around 32. So it did come up a little bit with this last dividend. And so we'll check the last 4 dividends is how I like to look at it. We had 42 cents a share, 33, 36, and 25.7. So a pretty low week for this one. This is the lowest week for IWMY that we've seen, which is probably why the NAV erosion has lessened this last week. Still, this isn't one that I own in my other accounts. I only own it in this one because of the return. So checking into IWMY, let's go into our next fund from Defiance, which is QQQY. What's interesting is QQQY and WDTE are down exactly 2.67%. Like, what are the chances of that? With different initial amounts, too. So, kind of funny. But QQQY, we can see average cost of $34.37 and a current price of $33.45. I wonder if I'm going to be able to memorize the average cost when I get to, like, week 40 or something like that. Because I remember this one specifically. So, we're down $2.75 on, and we have a $100 market value. Not terrible. This one has really started to collect itself better. It still fell from 34.5 to a low of 32.8. And now we're even lower than that, which is a big bummer, but it's doing a little bit better. We might have even gone up before a little bit of a sell-off with the last dividend. So not terrible, not as bad as I was expecting. Probably why we're green on the week is because these ones are slowing us down less than they normally do. They have all my money, so that's important to note. We have AUM of 184 million and a dividend yield of 80%, which is absolutely insane. Difficult to keep that up without NAV erosion. Thus, we see NAV erosion. So last 4 dividends, we see 34 cents, 25 cents, 28.3, and 23. So a pretty low one, actually. One of the lowest ones we've seen in quite a while, which isn't surprising. IWMY paid out a low amount, so did QQQY. All depends on implied volatility and the option contracts they're writing on these, but not happy about that. If I was living on just the income from these, that could be a little bit rough, but luckily I am not, mostly because I can't, because I'm too poor. But anyways, away from my personal issues, we can see it's trading sideways, and I like that. I would love to see this trade sideways for a few more weeks. Then I might consider buying it, although it's hard because YMAG and YMAX have been outperforming so much. So definitely not on my list to purchase this anytime soon, but I think it is really interesting how it's starting to level out, and that could be a potential for some more buying in the future. I shrunk my camera down. Sorry if my head was blocking. I always forget to do that. We have WDTE. An average cost of 42.18, a current price of 41.11, down 2.53%. We are in the aftermarkets roughly, so it is still factoring in. That's why our percentages are shifting a little bit, because it was the same as QQQY. We're down $2.15. So a 2.53% drop. Not terrible, not great. You know, it's the same thing. Same thing as QQQY. It's starting to trail up even slightly. This one might be better. Lower AUM of 89 million, so maybe there's getting some more growth, but we haven't seen any buying recently, any outlandish buying, I should say. Lower yield of 50.43%, a lot more realistic from this one. So if I was to buy one, I can't even say I'd buy this. I don't know. I can't even think about it because I'm not going to buy them. But I do like tracking them still, as you guys can see. So last 4 dividends, 33.5 cents, 24.5 cents, 28.8 cents, and 20.16 cents. I mean, it is a low dividend. It is the lowest that we've seen, same as the other Defiance funds, but it all depends on what you want. If you want more NAV erosion and higher dividends, that's not what they're doing right now. They're keeping the NAV pretty stable, but the dividends are dropping. So not a bad thing in my opinion. You're going to get a good yield from these still, and then you don't have to factor in NAV erosion all the time. So they're stabilizing a little bit, and I love to see that. They're not performing nearly as well as our RoundHill funds, which we'll jump into right now. RDTE. We now have a $135 market value with this one because I did purchase more shares from all of our dividends, which is phenomenal. Now, average cost of 44.36 cents, and our current price is $45. This one was performing better, and I shouldn't say was. It is still performing better, but because I purchased another share at a higher cost, it brought our average cost up. So our initial shares were purchased at $44.17, and this one is $44.74, 50-cent difference, roughly, even a little more than that. So that's why. So it did adjust the price, and so we have a less of a return, but not really, if that makes sense. It might not, and I'm sorry if it doesn't. We can see an AUM of 147.7 million, a pretty decent AUM, but not as big as nearly either of the others. Dividend yield of 8%, not accurate. It's around 30 to 40% from the last time I tracked it. There are videos on the channel tracking that, so if you're interested, check that one out. I can't keep track. There's so many of these ones I'm trying to keep up with. But our last 4 dividends, 33.4 cents a share, 41 cents a share, 32.7 cents a share, and 28 cents a share. Not the lowest, but on the lower end. So not bad. Still pretty close to that roughly 30-cent average. It has paid out some pretty crazy ones, but not bad. Happy for RDTE. So this, so far, it's looking like the Defiance funds just had a bad week, and it wasn't market-wide, but I guess we'll see that with our next fund, XDTE. Still one of the fan favorites. It will be the next one that we add a share to, but the market value is still pretty high at $106.40. We are up 1.7%, up $1.78. Purchase price of $52.31. Currently, it's $53.20. So a pretty solid return just there with XDTE. Jumping back to, we'll do the max chart. No, we'll do the 1 year because it's prettier. We can see some really good price appreciation with this one. It's been trading all over the place, but when you get a solid 16% dividend yield, you can't really complain I mean, you still can, but I'm happy with it. I'm very happy with it. Maybe it's underperforming what people on YouTube were saying it was going to do, but still, if it's a good performer, it's a good performer nonetheless. AUM of $261 million. In our last 4 dividends, we had 27.4 cents, we had 28.5 cents, we had 18.6 cents, and 23.5 cents. So not a bad dividend by any means. A little bit on the low side, maybe. No, it's looking like it's roughly the average. So all in all, a solid return from XDTE. It's not looking, again, further reiterates that it was just the Defiance funds that had a bad week, not the entire market, which I'm happy to see. Let's jump into QDTE, which is probably the most popular RoundHill fund. So QDTE is now our winner of the RoundHill funds, just percentage-wise, because of our purchase for RDTE. Kind of feels like we cheat a little bit, but that's okay. We also bought a share of QDTE, which would change the average cost as well. So kind of cheating, kind of not. We have an average cost of $42.39 and a current price of $43.29. So we're up 90 cents per share, which is good, up $2.70, 2.12%. Now, QDTE, the chart's a little bit uglier than XDTE, I would say, but we are looking like we're in a really good trend. Climbing up, bouncing around, but steadily climbing up, albeit slowly. We have an AUM of $610 million. That jumped. We were in the it was like 570, 580 last time. So there's been some buying. We can see these funds are continuing to have higher trading volume. This is people buying and selling, so not just buying per se, but still very interesting. Seeing more trading volume usually means something good or really bad is going to happen, or just that it's gaining value, which is kind of what the AUM has shown. So a 25.5% dividend, which is really, really solid. Last 4 dividends, 25.3 cents, 25.2 cents, 22.1 cents, and 23.6 cents. So again, not a low, probably right in the middle of what we've seen from QDTE. So overall, a solid week. We're not down heavily on the price, and we're actually still up on the price, and we've gotten some dividends, which is phenomenal. So jumping now into the YieldMax funds, which I think now are the fan favorites. All right, starting off with YMAG, which is our second winner, our second most winner in the account, gaining 3.75%, $3.77. And we have just been buying so much of this because I love the drip with the weeklies. I love getting notified about it. It is phenomenal. And so we're up. So we had 5 shares initially. We've already bought 0.23 shares just from drip. So really, really solid. Average cost of $19.18 and a current price of $19.90, which is, again, phenomenal. See a really similar chart to QDTE, which I always think is funny, but even a little bit more of an upward trend, which is phenomenal. We have an AUM of $264 million and a dividend yield of 32% from YMAG. Really, really been delivering. YieldMax has done really well. Really, really well. Let me know if you guys want to see a ULTY video. From my YieldMax full list breakdown video that I'll link at the end of this one, people were saying there was a prospectus change with the SEC that might make that one a huge winner. So let me know what you think. I might do a video on that one. I haven't before because of the past history, but if things are changing, I want to know about it. And I can't keep track of all of this, and you guys are great with helping me. So let me know in the comments down below. So last couple of dividends, we had 0.21 cents. We had 0.6 cents, 0.06. So a really low one, but that's how YMAG goes. We've talked about that on the channel numerous times. We had a nice dividend of 20 cents and then 27 cents. So actually a pretty solid return from YMAG. 27 is just below the high of 28. So we're a cent off from the all-time high dividend, which is phenomenal. I love YMAG. You guys know that I own YMAG and YMAX in my personal account, as well as all the RoundHill funds, because I think they're all great and they all have great potential. But YMAG and YMAX have been outperforming for sure, as we will see when we get to our dividend tracking spreadsheet. But before we do that, let's go over to the fan favorite of YMAX. He's just boasting now with a 5.81% return. Absolutely crazy. Not double YMAG. It's not that dramatic, but still, it's pretty dramatic. Up $5.31. We have almost a fifth of a share now as well, just gained from drip, which is insane. It's absolutely insane. And so we can see an average cost of $17.59, $17.60, and $18.62 is the price. So we've gained $1.03 per share, which is outstanding. It really is. It really is crazy how well this has performed in such a short amount of time. We can see our buys every time it drips. It's buying on the way up, changing our average cost, but that's okay because we're getting more shares every time we have that drip turned on. We have an AUM of 566 million. Huge. I forgot YieldMax is actually a huge fund. And we have a dividend yield of 37.8%. Absolutely phenomenal fund. This one has had insane trade volume as well. Check this out. There's always going to be a lot more selling after the dividend, the ex-dividend date, which is when the dividend is like declared and you get the dividend for holdings. We will sell on that day because it starts to drop. But still, absolutely insane volume and an increase in volume growth even long before it went to weekly. So very happy with that. We have dividends, last 4 dividends of 15.2 cents, 24.4 cents, 30.5 cents, and 23.8 cents roughly. So a little bit on the lower side of a dividend. Not bad by any means. Definitely, I shouldn't say the lower side. It's a little bit lower than what we've seen in the last week, but still really close to the week prior to that and loads higher than the week before that, prior to that week. Oh my goodness. So I'm very happy with YieldMax. You guys know this. I'm going to keep making content on it. I might do some retire on YieldMax videos because it really has... I'm kind of obsessed. I might be fanboying over YieldMax a little bit. I think we all are at this point because the returns have just been insane. So with all that being said, I'm going to jump into our spreadsheet and let's look at all of this data all across the board. Okay, we are back on the ugly spreadsheet. This is not the one that comes with the subscription to the channel. This is the one that I made, and that's why it's so ugly. So we can see our last couple of dividends. I'm going to point a few things out as we go along, and I'll read everything out. So if you guys are watching like on a phone, it's hard to see. I will try and adjust that. So we have IWMY, 77 cents, an all-time low in dividends for the 3 shares we have. For QQQY, another all-time low of 69 cents for the 3 shares that we have. WDTE didn't want to break the trend. Another all-time low at 40 cents. We are down. I mean, this was a big drop too. It's 9 cents below the previous dividend for 2 shares. Now we're getting to the fun ones. We have QDTE, 71 cents. Big dividend. It's not a record-breaking dividend because we now have 3 shares of QDTE, and so that needs to be factored in. This is, I think, the first week that it's actually counted. We have XDTE with 47 cents. Not a high, not a low. Maybe on a little bit of a higher side, but this one's been trending up, so it's hard to track this. RDTE, 57 cents. Now, still, we didn't get the dividend declared for the 3rd share that I purchased for RDTE, so this is just based off of the 2 shares that we owned prior, and next week we should get the full 3 share, so we should see a jump with that. YMAG, we're actually up to what? 5.23 shares now. So our dividends keep climbing. We had $1.46. It paid out a really nice dividend. Not an all-time high in relation to the number of shares that we have, but with our 5.23 shares of YMAG, $1.46, which is great. And YieldMax, a really solid return as well, $1.25. Again, this one might actually be an all-time high. We are continuing to purchase more shares. We have 5.19 in this one now. So really, really solid. When we add up all of the dividends, and from now on, I'm going to do this in the other spreadsheet. I just haven't done it yet. So we're going to factor in and see how much all of these have paid total. So for IWMY, total payments of $8.17. For QQQY, $6.07. For WDTE, only $4.31. When we're looking at QDTE, we see $4.26. XDTE, $3.59. RDTE, $4.89. And then we get to the big ones, YMAG, $7.42. And YieldMax, $7.98. So the most that we've seen is YieldMax. Still YMAG in a close second. And then actually the most is IWMY, but it's just been dropping like crazy. And then we have YieldMax and YMAG close behind it. But when we factor in the dividends and NAV erosion, we're going to see the actual thing from our other spreadsheet. So I'm going to jump over to that now, and let's see exactly all the money that we've made from each of these funds. So first things first, I did get this back from the developer, and there have been some crazy changes made. You can already see them. I haven't updated everything. I'm falling behind trying to get all the updates in and keeping everything up to date. So the dashboard stuff is a little bit off, but we are accurate with our $6.32 from dividends just this last week, which is outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. When we go into our positions tab, this again, I need to update the number of shares because I'm just falling behind. But the new addition is the fact that this shows red and green depending on if you've made money or lost money, which is key because I want at a quick glance to be able to see all of that stuff. So I'm going to update these numbers and let's see how much money we've made from each of these funds. Okay, I fixed it. It should be updated. So we have a total return of 11.63% in our 10 weeks, which is absolutely insane. Total dividend amount of $47.32 gained. I fixed the diversification because we now have RDTE as our biggest holding at 16%, and we have YMAG and YMAX are too low on this list. If you guys think I should buy one more share of each, let me know in the comments because I'm willing to do that before buying into these other ones, just because they've been returning so well. WDTE is our lowest. We really should have more YMAX than any of the Defiance funds. It's a little bit pathetic. We can go back down here, and remember this is a chart where you can see all the different dividends paid out by each of the funds. We can also see it on the positions on the dividend tracking tab. So we have this updated. I had to fix this because I kept forgetting to factor in the dividends for IWMY, and now it's going to do it an automated way, which is phenomenal. But we can see market return for those three is still down, but our total return is up. So I'm happy to see that. We see IWMY our least positive at 1.48%. Then we have QQQY. I'm going to zoom in here. Hopefully this makes it easier for you guys that are on mobile to see this. Okay, maybe that's better. There we go. And so then moving down, we have WDTE, which is actually up 5% with the dividends. Even though it's been paying out less, that really surprised me. And the same as with QDTE. They've returned the same percentage on the money invested, which is wild to me. Maybe that's one to look at if you're going to look at the Defiance funds. Then we see XDTE at 5.23%. Does this mean that WDTE is outperforming or that QDTE is underperforming? That's what I want to know. It's even better than RDTE, which is insane. But again, we did just buy more of these, which factored down our average cost, or I should say factored up the average cost. So 5.23 from XDTE, RDTE 4.35%, and then we have YMAG at 10.86%, which is insane, and YMAX at 13.77%. These two are definitely carrying the account with the total return. This is absolutely crazy. I'm really happy with how those ones have been performing. They were much better. If you would have asked me when I started what's going to be the best, I would have said RoundHill all the way. I owned RoundHill before I owned any of the other ones, and so that's just icing on the cake. Now, there's a few more things we can see. We're seeing XDTE getting near all-time highs. RDTE kind of in the middle, which isn't terrible, but the things that I've added to this spreadsheet, like I said, this is available. It's the tier 3 subscription for our membership. It helps me do these challenges. I want to do more. I want to put $1,000 into each of these and track it. There's a ton of stuff on there for joining the group. If you're interested, go check that out and let me know feedback if you like it, if you don't like it. Now, we have a weekly dividend log. This is what was added. And so this is going to factor in. I had everything set up. I worked with the developer for a long time on this one. And so all you do is you factor in the weeks that you were paid. And so we can see we are in week 2 of December. We were paid on the 8th for each of these. So these are all going in the 8th. And so then we'll change it. Next week it should be the 15th, and so on and so forth, all the way down. And I love this. You have to manually upload everything into that, and then the monthly data and the weekly data will follow. You do have to upload stuff here too, but it is so much simpler than I thought it was going to be. You have the sold positions, and we have annual and weekly data again. So there's so much stuff on here, and I'm really, really happy with how it's turned out and how it looks. As always, let me know feedback. Check this out on my channel. If you're interested, let me know, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.